This is my mock-up tabletop city that I put together just for fun because I like rearranging modular buildings, putting things together in a different way, experimenting with city building, getting new ideas, and perhaps there'll be ideas that I'll use for future city building. Well, in this video, I'm going to build something a little bit different. Rather than have this tabletop city floating around in the middle of my room, I'm going to experiment with different ways of how I could put it up against a wall and make it look like it's on a mountainside. The mountain mural that you see behind my winter village was actually designed for my Lego city, but I just never put it in and instead ended up in my winter village. So I'll try to utilize that to put up behind the modulars. I cleared out some space in the corner of my room to try out this mock city. I've got no idea how it's going to turn out. There's a vision in my head, but it gets blurry after a while. I'm not going to build any custom tables or shelving for this project. I'm going to use what I have. What I have is this adjustable table, and also my shelf right there is adjustable on this track system. So what I did was lowered it as much as I could, and then going to raise this table. And the table and the shelf will be staggered and kind of create a hillside. The length of my shelf actually happens to match the length of my table, so that's very fortunate. I'm going to use this side of my tabletop city as the bottom layer, and I'll tell you why a little bit later on. I've got my table height adjusted where I want it, and my city split up into two streets. I've got this lower one and this upper one. What I'm going to do next is create some mountain effects with the background, but also below the street right here, I'm going to modify the street a little bit to add a couple more studs so I can get some rock overhang to hide the edge of my table and shelf. Because these streets are on the edge of a cliff now, I modded my road plates with some additional studs to allow space for guardrails, some flowers just to add some color, and changed up the tiling pattern a little bit because I picked up these from my pad wall at the Lego store recently. So just changing up tiling work. Also added some rock / concrete structure work to the side there to hide the edge of the table. And I think that'll work out, so I'll continue with that pattern. I use these Alex drawer units to store my Lego pieces, and I put one underneath my lifted table to fill up that space, and also to hide those ugly phone jacks that are on the wall and no longer use. The road plate modifications are done. It took a few hours, but I think that time was worth it. I think the end product looks good. Now, why I chose this street to be my lower tier is because it had less gap in between buildings. Well, there's no gap right here. Up here, there's space between Tudor Corner and the museum, the Parisian restaurant, the boutique hotel, and the diner. It would have shown a lot of underneath my shelf, just like right here does, where Assembly Square is. And it should have some rock work to fill up that space, but it's going to take up a lot of bricks. So I'm not sure I want to do that. Otherwise, it's pretty tight together under here, so you really don't need to waste a whole lot of bricks that aren't necessary to fill up that space. Yeah, there's some spots where you're going to see through right here. On the corner, looking on the left side of Palace Cinema, well, you can see all the way back to the wall. So for the case of the Palace Cinema, I'll probably change that up because the corner against the wall right there doesn't make sense anyway. But I did want to have gaps between the buildings up here to showcase the mountain. Okay, now let's talk about the mountain. The mountain is pretty simple of how I built it, but it was parts intensive and very time consuming. I essentially just used 2x2 dark gray bricks and 1x2 white slopes, and then put trees occasionally in some clouds. Yeah, most everything came from the Lego store pad wall, of course, or else I'd be spending thousands and not going to do that. So I'm going to, I built this in sections and pinned it together. I think there's 3 sections altogether here, but I'm going to have to do a little bit of modification to get the right length in my mountaintop city. I did as much as I could to make this mountain look 3-dimensional, even though it's only 3 bricks in depth. Like, for example, this part here, where I've got a cutaway where a train's going through a tunnel. And I had that designed for my city where I had like an alleyway and a lot of open space where you can see that. So I'm not quite sure how it's going to look behind the buildings the way I've got them, but we'll see. The mountain backdrop has been removed from my winter village, chopped up into pieces. Now that's just what's left. I've got it now in my mock-up city, my mountain side city. I think it's going to look good, but I don't see enough of it. I'm going to raise it up. It's going to take a lot of bricks, but I think I've got enough down here to work with. So what I could do... Now, originally when I designed this mountain, the reason it's so low is because, remember, I had that shelf up a few notches on that track, and some of the peaks would hit the shelving up above it or the brackets. So now that I've lowered the shelf, I can raise the mountain. I increased the height of the mountains by 8 bricks, and I think that made a big difference. Now I can see the mountain ridges up over the modulars, but also fill in all of that empty wall space, or at least most of it. Yeah, I'm liking the look of this. And then when I slid the modulars back as far as I could against the mountain mural, it allowed me some space to create this very narrow, I don't know, I use it as a bike path because essentially we already have sidewalks with the modular buildings. Next, what I'm going to do is add a little bit of traffic here, a little more, make it a little more lively, and also swap out that palace cinema. There we go, the mountainside city is coming together. A lot more condensed now, with some high-dollar cars, of course. Streetcars, got the pet shop to fill in the spot where the palace cinema is, and I think that works out just fine. Here's the second tier. Similar story to what I had on my tabletop city. An officer is issuing a ticket to this person who illegally parked on the bike path. Right now I'm going over pros and cons in my head, trying to think if this is the route I want to take for my city. Because I love this tiered mountainside setup here with the mountains in the background. But what would make more sense? It doesn't make sense wasting all of this space down here. It doesn't make sense using this high-dollar adjustable table for this. That table's got to be back in the center of my room and used for building Lego and other stuff. So, if I changed out my tracking of my shelves, lowered it so that I can lower these shelves further down to my IKEA tables that are a lot less expensive than this one, well, there'd be less wasted space down here. I can use those tables that I already have, and I think things would look really well. I feel like there's a lot of Lego City packed into a really small space here. And I think for people that don't have a lot of space in their house, but want to build a really nice Lego City, I think this is a viable option. I'd suggest making custom road plates with the train track incorporated, so you can put trains or cars on the streets, and making them smaller than your standard Lego street, because that does save space, but also makes it custom, makes it your own. You can tile it up with whatever color you want and however you want it. It looks pretty good from this angle, but perhaps it's a bit of a stretch with the detective's office under there. In fact, I couldn't put on the roof or the third floor, but I thought it was a pretty cool idea having an underground detective's office and underground barbershop, if you will. Then you could have this street and build a tunnel over top of it and finish up rock work and make things look smooth on this side here. And also, you could potentially connect the citizens from down here to up there by adding some stairs. There's not room with the brick bank being a corner. The corners usually go up to the edge of the base plate. But I would do it like down here in the back alleys of the pet shop. Yeah, there's enough room to build a staircase right here so that your figures can access the top tier. It's easy to imagine expansion going this way with more modular buildings, but what if you added a third tier down here with whatever's left over, whatever you have left, and a beachfront? Oh, that'd be so cool. I've got my head spinning right now. I think I need to end my mock-up mountainside city right now, or else I'm just gonna go crazy with it. Well, thanks for watching.